So for this video I thought I would talk about white strategy. Just going to focus on one colour for each of these, and you can pick and choose what you like and go from there. So we've got Soul Mender and a Chinese Pride Mate. Now these two guys go together really well, and one of the great things about these two is it's obvious to your opponent what you're doing, which makes it a great decoy strategy. Pretty much if they've got removal, they're going to have to choose between the Soul Mender or a Chinese Pride Mate. Basically, it's a great strategy on its own, but it's also good as like a backup, also usable as a decoy. You know, make your opponent think this is your main strategy. So what else works well? Well, one of my favourites is Seraph of the Masses. Now, its power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control. So having lots of 1-drops or 2-drops in your deck is fantastic. But cards such as Raise the Alarm, which give you 2 1/1 white soldier creatures. They're tokens, but that's okay. That's going to give you this, another 2/2. Here's another card that works really well with it, but only if you lose life. But if you have, say, 2 of these first responses, you're going to get, and you choose not to block, well, you're going to gain another 2/2, which means your flyer is going to get even bigger. So you've got your flyer, who is slowly getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You've got to keep it safe. That's where Spectral Ward comes in. Protection from all colours and gains +2/+2. Fantastic, and this card really annoys your opponent. Now, say you did have a Chinese Pride Mate and Soul Mender, and one or both were removed or died. Return from the Ranks works really well there. It is X+2. It also has Convoke, which is fantastic. Probably should have mentioned that Seraph of the Masses has Convoke as well, so you can start, as soon as you get things out on the board, you can start bringing it out, pretty much. Return X target creature cards with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Now, tokens don't go to the graveyard in the sense that you can bring them back, but everything else does. Now, if you've got lots of 1 or 2 drops, this is what you need. Spirit Bonds. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1 white mana. If you do, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Now, it's a 2-drop card, which is fantastic. So, if you've got that in your hand on your first turn, you're definitely in for a great game. Its other thing is 1 colourless, 1 white, sacrifice non-spirit creature gains indestructible until end of turn. Isn't that fantastic? That effect could also be used to keep Seraph of the Masses around. And here's something else that works really well with Seraph of the Masses, marked by Honour. Gains Vigilance, which is fantastic, and +2/+2. What more can you want? Well, by now, if you've done all of this, your Seraph of the Masses is ready to obliterate anything, and your opponent is probably quite unhappy. Something else that needs to be mentioned, Triplicate Spirits. It has Convoke, which is fantastic. Put 3 white spirit creatures on the battlefield. So if you're doing all of this, Raise the Alarm, First Response, Triplicate Spirits, Seraph of the Masses is going to be getting huge. So right there you've got 2 basic strategies that work together really well. Now here's a third, a little bit more unorthodox might be the word. But before I get to that, one last thing. Paragon of New Dawns. Now, it's a 4-drop, and it's a 2/2. But other white creatures you control get +1/+1. Now, if you're going with the whole token strategy, this card is what you want. You want at least 2. It's gonna get used no matter which strategy you go, because it's going to give your other white creatures +1/+1. And if you've got 2 of these, well, they're going to each buff each other, which means you're going to have a 3/3. Alright. Sungrace Pegasus. It's a 2-drop. It's a 1/2. It has flying, and here is what you want. It has lifelink. So this works really well with Ajani's Pridemate. It also works well in the whole Outlast strategy, but we'll get to that at another time. So you've got this guy. Now, you bring that out, your opponent's not exactly going to feel threatened. So, that's where something like Marked by Honor comes in. Vigilance, +2/+2. What else can you do to make Sungrace Pegasus more of a threat? Well, Divine Favour. You gain 3 life, gets +1/+3. You do that, for 4 mana you've got a 2/5. And you can potentially do that on, turn 3. So, right there you've got something pretty big that gives you lifelink and flying. So, you've got a lot of auras in your deck. How do you get them out? Heliod's Pilgrim. When Heliod's Pilgrim enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an aura card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. You have a couple of these guys, and you can get Marked by Honor, Divine Favour, whichever one of these auras that's in your deck that's critical at that very moment, you can get that into your hand, which is definitely handy. Now here's something that's quite handy. Battle Mastery. Enchanted creature has double strike. Now, you put this on Sungrace Pegasus when it's got Divine Favour and Marked by Honor, your opponent's going to be thinking, oh no. And, of course, a favourite, Spectre Ward. Protects from all colours. So this is going to keep your Pegasus guy around, which is definitely what you want if you're going for the whole either Outlast or life gain or whatever it might be. 2 cards. So you've got three strategies there that go together incredibly well, and you can pick and choose what you do there. And here is something else. Whenever a creature card put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, you gain 1 life. Now this, it's a 1-drop and it's an artifact, which, depending on what kind of strategy you're going for, artifacts can be useful. So, you gain 1 life whenever a creature card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, which means if they discard from their hand and there's a creature, you gain life. Whatever it might be, you're going to gain life, which is fantastic. Which this makes this guy a threat as well, because he can gain +1/+1 counters in your opponent's turn, or whenever it might be. So, as you can see, all of these cards go together incredibly well. And here's another one. Haunted Plate Mail. Yeah, okay, these two are colourless, but that's also a good thing. So, Haunted Plate Mail, +4/+4. That is incredible to me. You stick that on something like Sungrace Pegasus and you are going to be really happy. Life game wise anyway. So, there's one other card that I need to mention, and that is Radiant Fountain. You should have 4 in your deck because it gains 2 life when it comes into play. It doesn't come in tapped, which is also handy. So, as you've seen, life gain for white is what it's about. There is a couple more cards I will mention just before we finish up. Now, if you're going for a token strategy with life gain, this is what you want. Congregate. Target player gains 2 life for each creature on the battlefield. If your opponent is doing a token strategy, then this card also works really well for you. a card that definitely needs to be in all white decks. Resolute Archangel, flying. It's, a 7, it costs 7 to bring in. It's a 4/4 with flying, which is fantastic. But with this card, you can take life damage and not worry about it, because when this comes into play, your life total goes back to your starting total. A few other notable mentions, because we're going over time a little bit. I apologise for that, but hopefully you gain something. Mass Calcify, destroy all non-white creatures. It can be a pain if you're playing a multicolour deck, but sometimes that's a choice you just need to make. I wouldn't put too many Mass Calcifiers in a deck. I normally just run about 2, because sometimes you don't need that many board clears. And I think our last one is an angel who is worth mentioning. Avican Guardian Angel. I hope I have said that right. If I haven't, please correct me. Flying in Vigilance, and it's a 5/4 for 5, which is, really good as well, in my opinion anyway. So 1 colourless, 1 white. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to another target creature this turn by sources of the colour of your choice. Fantastic if you're playing against someone who mainly uses, 1 colour or 2 colours, whatever it is. And these effects do not require tapping, which is even better. But notice that it says another creature, which means it cannot help itself. 5 colourless, 2 white. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to target player this turn by sources of the colour of your choice. Now that you can use to save yourself, as long as you've got the mana, of course. So hopefully you've definitely gained a few ideas here. I apologise for going on and on, but we've gone through quite a few cards, and these are all cards that are... There's a couple of rares, but most are uncommon or common, which is fantastic. Cards such as Resolute Archangel you can get in the 2015 intro pack, along with Mass Calcify and a Johnny's Pride, mate. So, at the end of the day, it also depends on what kind of cards you've got. The other cards in your deck, are you a multicolour or what it might be? If you've got any questions, feel free to ask. I've been doing this for quite a while, and I don't quite... I do kind of know what I'm doing with a white deck, as opposed to, say, a red deck or a green. So, hopefully you've enjoyed this, and thanks for watching, and listening to my ramble.